I kind of feel like a guy on a first date that's like jonesing, like, hey, are we gonna kiss after this date? Nothing was on my mind, but we're in the friend zone.
So there was this moment in a recent episode that really stuck out. During Kody's birthday date with Janelle, he claimed he didn't expect anything from her, just seemed like he wanted to spend time together. But the thing is, last season he was caught saying he was jonesing for a kiss. The contrast was jarring. It felt like he was trying to rewrite history, and for some viewers, that kind of flip-flopping just highlighted how disingenuous he can come across. A lot of people watching found his behavior cringeworthy. It was that teenage boy energy he throws around, like he's reliving some high school fantasy, which just doesn't sit well with everyone. Some folks even said they felt like they needed to bleach their brains afterwards, or had to fast forward through parts of the episode. There was this shared feeling of secondhand embarrassment and disbelief. That led to a bigger conversation about the show in general, how repetitive it's gotten, how so much of what's said now feels like resalted drama. Some viewers admitted they've started skipping through large chunks, just waiting for the next significant moment or the upcoming sit-downs in later episodes. There's a clear fatigue setting in with the show's pacing and editing. Yo, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to ThreadoraTalks, where the conversations are always next level. I'm your host, Christopher, and today we're turning things up a notch. Trust me, this is one video you do not want to miss, so let's dive right in. In between all this, a side discussion sparked up about favorite podcasts that cover the series. Love Should Be Multiplied with Ace and Caitlin came up a lot, especially for those who enjoy a snarkier take. Then there's Surviving Sister Wives with Corey and Carly, which offers a slightly more low-key but still humorous vibe. People shared that these podcasts help keep things entertaining, even when the show feels stale. A few also mentioned We Love to Hate Everything for its mix of content beyond just Sister Wives, including reality TV and documentaries, and praised Amanda's sharp wit, even if it's not everyone's cup of tea. Back to Kody, though. The comments got deeper into how he presents himself. Many thought he was clearly trying to protect his ego. He seemed to want Janelle's affection, but couldn't handle the rejection. And that emotional flip-flopping, from wanting her back to acting like he never cared, just didn't add up. A lot of people saw right through it. They said it wasn't about love anymore. It was about pride and perception. It's all there on film, but he acts like no one remembers what he said just one season ago. And then there's Robyn. Viewers called out contradictions in her words too, like claiming she didn't track Kody's time with the other wives, while having told Meri something completely different. The dynamic between them, and the way they both seemed to rewrite the past, didn't sit well with people. Some even joked about how neither of them seems aware of how they come across, especially when moments from past episodes clearly contradict what they're now claiming. There was also talk about finances, how Meri mentioned helping pay for things like the kids' education because she only had one child, and Janelle brought up that the money was all pooled in a joint account. It painted a picture of a family that trusted too much without putting proper boundaries in place, and now they're left trying to untangle everything. In the end, the overall feeling wasn't just frustration with one person, but more a reflection on how the situation has unraveled. Whether it's the failed trust in the shared finances, or the awkwardness of watching someone behave like a lovesick teen on camera, it all feels like a slow unraveling of something that was supposed to be built on unity and belief. And maybe that's why so many are turning to podcasts, not just to laugh, but to make sense of it all. Because when the story starts contradicting itself, sometimes the only way to keep watching is to hear someone else say, "Wait, did he really just say that?" There's a conversation about how a certain family collapsed, and a lot of the blame has often been put on one woman, Robyn. But some feel that's unfair, almost like a double standard where she's seen as the sole cause, while the man at the center, Kody, is sometimes overlooked or given less criticism. After all, he was the common factor among the original wives, and many say played a big role in the breakdown. The argument goes that Kody didn't put effort into maintaining his marriages or nurturing relationships with his children from the original wives. He's accused of controlling the finances, isolating the wives from each other, and spending most of his time with Robyn. It's suggested he financially abused the women, controlled money tightly, and let Robyn have no independent access, which makes it hard to see how she could be solely responsible for everything falling apart. At the same time, it's clear Kody is not given a free pass by anyone discussing this. He's often called out harshly, sometimes even more frequently than Robyn. Still, some think Robyn tends to get more negative attention, especially recently. Others point out that on any given day, there are many more critical posts about Robyn than Kody. The consensus is that no one thinks Kody is innocent. Everyone agrees he's a big part of the problem, but Robyn's manipulations and lies are especially frustrating to watch. Many agree the family's destruction was a combined effort. Robyn is seen as manipulative, but Kody is the one who allowed it to happen. Some believe Robyn influenced Kody and that they fed off each other's egos, but others insist they're not equal. Robyn's actions, including how she treated her own children, have been particularly hurtful. She has been accused of isolating her kids from their biological and adoptive siblings, blocking family gatherings, and playing the victim when confronted. On the other hand, Kody is described as neglectful and abusive, verbally and financially. His failure as a husband and father is seen as the root cause of the family's downfall. He favored Robyn and her children, leaving the original wives feeling abandoned. There's an understanding that the polygamous system itself is problematic, but Kody's poor leadership and narcissism made it worse. People also discuss why Robyn draws so much attention. Partly it's because she presents herself as a victim while acting in ways that contradict that image. Her attempts to manipulate the family and the audience, her lies and her emotional displays add a layer of complexity that makes her a focal point. Meanwhile, Kody is viewed as a somewhat predictable, one-dimensional figure, selfish, entitled and lazy, who benefits from the system and lets others do the hard work. Despite that, Kody's role as a patriarchal figure with ultimate control over money and family dynamics means he bears a heavy responsibility. He fostered an environment of competition and dysfunction among the wives, pitting them against each other to maintain control. He discouraged close relationships between them and leaned into victimhood when conflicts arose, conflicts that he largely created and fueled. At the same time, Robyn's influence disrupted the family further. She came into a well-established family with many children and complicated dynamics, and her needs and demands, such as for exclusive time with Kody, a separate home and other perks, not only alienated the other wives, but made Kody's balancing act impossible. There's also a reflection on how internalized misogyny sometimes colors the conversation, with some women blaming Robyn more harshly simply because she is a woman. The call is for a more balanced view, recognizing that both are responsible and harmful in their own ways, and that blaming one without the other is unfair and counterproductive. In the end, the story told here is about two people who both contributed to the unraveling of a family. Kody's narcissism, poor leadership, and neglect created a broken foundation, and Robyn's manipulations, divisiveness, and mistreatment of others poured fuel on the fire. Neither is innocent or blameless. This dynamic reflects deeper issues in the family's structure and the system they were part of, but at the heart of it, it comes down to choices and behaviors of these two individuals. Their combined actions tore the family apart, and understanding that complexity means resisting the urge to place the blame on just one person. There's this situation that unfolded around a family decision to move back to Utah after some changes in laws, and it really highlights a complicated dynamic, especially involving Kody and Christine. The setup was that Christine brought up the idea of moving back, and while it initially seemed like Kody might support her, behind the scenes he was actually excited about how badly she would get pushback from the other wives. It felt like he was almost anticipating her humiliation, not offering any real support or backup when she faced the group. This wasn't just a one-off incident. There are several examples where Kody appeared to manipulate situations to make the wives look bad or to maintain control. For instance, when Meri wanted to buy a bed and breakfast, Kody initially seemed supportive, but then withdrew financial help and left her to deal with the fallout alone. Similarly, when Christine suggested the move to Utah, Kody's enthusiasm seemed to vanish after Robyn said no, and then he sat back with a smug attitude when the idea got shot down by the other wives. It's clear from these moments that Kody thrived on a power dynamic where he played the wives against each other and enjoyed putting them in uncomfortable positions, seemingly to assert his control. When the original 3 wives decided to end their strained relationships and stop the behind-the-scenes gossip, it effectively took away the control he and Robyn had over the family. That loss of influence was a big shift, and it seemed to catch Kody off guard. He didn't expect any of the wives, especially Christine, to challenge the family's carefully crafted image of harmony. Another point that came up was how Kody often prioritized his own desires without really caring about what the wives or kids wanted, whether it was moving plans or decisions like church youth group participation. If it didn't align with his wishes, the wives' feelings and opinions didn't seem to matter. There was a sense that Kody was more interested in how things affected him and his image than in genuine empathy or a partnership. Christine, in particular, appeared to bear the brunt of this dynamic. She was often left isolated in discussions, like when she raised the Utah move, and Kody's behavior suggested he was waiting for her to fail or be rejected so he could feel justified in his stance. The emotional toll on her was palpable. There was a notable moment where Kody manipulated her on a beach with a childish smirk that really illustrated how little emotional intelligence he brought to these relationships. His disdain for Christine seemed long-standing, and every opportunity he had to undermine her, he took. Eventually, this pattern pushed Christine to leave once her daughter graduated. She moved to Utah, living freely away from the family drama. The rest of the original family mostly went no contact with Kody and Robyn, showing how fractured things had become. Kody, it seems, was happy to leave behind not only his wives, but also his own children and grandchildren when they chose to break away. The discussions around these events also touched on how the public-facing moments were often carefully staged or edited. Many believed Kody was on board with plans like moving back to Utah or buying property only to backtrack once the cameras rolled or the other wives spoke up. This manipulation was evident in several gotcha moments where wives looked desperate or out of touch, but the reality was more complex behind the scenes. Even the other wives noticed the gaslighting and emotional abuse. At one point, one of them acknowledged how messed up it was that Kody didn't support Christine privately before these discussions, instead leaving her vulnerable in front of everyone. Christine's growing resilience through all this was noted as well. She knew her own truth and didn't seem to need the approval or support of the family anymore. Looking back, it's a story about control, manipulation, and broken relationships within a family that had once presented itself as unified. The tension and hurt beneath the surface eventually came to light, showing how difficult and painful it can be when those closest to us fail to support each other honestly. It's a reminder that what's seen on the surface often masks much deeper struggles, and sometimes the courage to step away is the only way to find peace. There's a lot of talk about why the family decided to move from Vegas to Flagstaff, and the consensus seems to be that it wasn't Kody's choice but Robyn's, and it was all because of Dayton. Before the move was announced, Kody tells the kids they're moving to Flagstaff, and Dayton reacts with excitement. But it turns out Dayton had already planned on going to college there. The thinking is that Robyn pushed for the move because she wanted to stay close to Dayton, probably to help him with his Asperger's diagnosis, or because she didn't think he could handle the transition alone. Many feel Dayton originally wanted to leave and experience college independence, but Robyn's intense need to control and protect him led to uprooting the entire family. This move didn't just affect Dayton, it disrupted the lives of all the other kids, especially those who had established roots like Gabe, who lost scholarship opportunities and was visibly upset about it. The older kids didn't have much say, and it seems like Kody went along with Robyn's plans, even when it caused obvious strain within the family. Some reflect that if Robyn truly needed to be near Dayton, maybe she could have gone alone, sparing the rest of the family from moving and selling their homes. Flagstaff was a financially difficult and emotionally damaging choice, separating siblings and derailing their futures. There's a sense that Kody is now recognizing, though silently, that the move was a mistake, and maybe that he was manipulated, but his pride stops him from admitting it openly. From people with personal experience, it's noted that while some support during college transition is important, especially for kids with Asperger's, completely uprooting a whole family isn't usually necessary. Some parents share their own stories about balancing support and independence for their children with similar diagnoses without making such drastic moves. It's also mentioned that Dayton might not have been formally diagnosed, but rather labeled by Robyn, which complicates things further. Across the board, there's sympathy for Dayton because it looks like he wanted distance from the family's chaos, but instead, his mother followed him, pulling everyone along. Many blame Robyn for this controlling behavior rather than Dayton himself. They see Robyn's need to control extending beyond Dayton to her other children, and even affecting family decisions around things like church involvement and schooling. The other wives' role in the move is also questioned. Some say they initially resisted, but eventually gave in, possibly out of fear of backlash from Kody, who tends to shut people out if they disagree with him. There's frustration that they didn't stand firmer to protect the original 3 kids' interests, especially given the cost and emotional toll of moving. Financially, Flagstaff turned out to be a bad choice, with expensive homes and complicated logistics. Kody is described as somewhat clueless about finances and easily influenced by Robyn, who is portrayed as more controlling and manipulative. It's noted how Kody sometimes tries to spin things positively for the cameras, but there's a tension and lack of affection in his interactions with Robyn that hints at underlying regrets. Some reflect on how the family's constant moves and Kody's restlessness cause ongoing instability, making it harder for the kids to build lasting roots or pursue their own lives. There's also a note about Robyn's anxiety during the pandemic, which further isolated her and the family from the others, again illustrating her controlling tendencies. Overall, the move to Flagstaff is seen as a clear example of how one person's need to control can cause significant disruption and pain for many. It highlights the challenges of balancing individual needs with family dynamics, especially in a complicated family structure. The sadness for those who are hurt or sidelined by the move is palpable, and it seems no one involved has fully owned the mistakes made. It's a reminder that decisions made out of fear or control, even with good intentions, can have lasting consequences that are hard to repair. The hope might be that awareness of these dynamics can lead to better understanding and healing over time. All right, now I want to hear from you. Sound off in the comments and let me know where you stand. Agree, disagree, or something in between. And if you're enjoying the vibe, hit that like button. Subscribe and ring the bell so you're always in the loop. Your voice counts, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for hanging with me.